Hello, everybody, and welcome to WildOne Forever. I'm Meredith Loughran, and today I have a special guest, Eskander. She is a fashion designer, scriptwriter, mother, and friend. She is the creator of EYVA. If you have been following on Geek Insider and following me, you would probably see her all over the place. We are trying to promote her and get her across the finish line with her crowdfunding. In the meantime, WildOne Forever is a completely different kind of site. It's a different flavor from what you might have seen me doing. And on that note, I'm just going to take down the card and we're just going to have a casual conversation. Hi, Enes. How are you?
Hi, Meredith. How are you? Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. So you're across the pond and it is about 9 o'clock your time, right?
Yes. It's 4 minutes past 9, according to my MacBook.
Well, because I didn't want to get you too late because I know what it's like trying to get an American audience.
Yeah.
You know, when you're across the pond. I have a lot of friends who are in England, so hopefully a few of them are tuning in. But again, I was saying how this is a different flavor. I do want to get to EYVA. EYVA or IVA? I say it both ways.
Do you know, I started off with EYVA, then I changed to IVA, and then I didn't like IVA, so now we've gone back to EYVA. It's a work in progress.
Well, I definitely want to get to that for the WildOne Forever audience, but I wanted to kind of get to know the woman behind the book, you know, where you came from, how you got here, and all that fun stuff. So I don't know if you wanted to give us a quick introduction and tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, so I'm Eskander. I'm the writer and creator of EYVA.
I totally removed you. Hold on a second, because I'm an idiot.
Right. No, it's fine.
Try again.
From the beginning?
No. Keep going.
So basically, I came into writing, doing it seriously as a screenwriter in 2012. I did a course at the Metropolitan Film School in Ealing, and after that I met my mentor at the London Screenwriters Festival, and I was writing this sort of sci-fi screenplay, and because of my fashion background, it just naturally evolved into sort of the idea of turning it into a comic, and sort of following that, I've always been an Aeon Flux fan, so I met Timothy, the illustrator, through Aeon Flux, and we ended up having a 5-year collaborative journey, which has brought us to this point in time where now I've got an IndieGoGo campaign to launch the first issue, actually get it published, and then start work on the second issue. My background, as I mentioned before, is fashion. I graduated in 2000. I spent 15 years in the fashion industry. I'm a mum. I've got 2 children, and my husband sort of passed away in 2014 from a spinal brain tumor, and that kind of also had some influence in terms of the direction that I took EYVA in terms of her work as a bioengineer. It's like I've been on a journey, and sort of there's loads of aspects, and this is where I've ended up.
Now, you mentioned that your husband died in 2014. And that must have been I lost a husband through divorce. So it was choice. There was a lot of problems. But it's one of those things where I think for my family, my parents didn't understand it because they were married till death do you part. Whereas mine was just like, okay, I'm a failure. I failed at that. So I would never understand the dynamic of trying to raise children without a husband because of death. I mean, it wasn't that you had any conflict or anything like that. It was just maybe he was there. I don't know if he was sick for a long time, and then the next thing he's gone.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it was an absolute shock, because what happened was it was 2012. I remember it was Christmas, and he kept complaining that there was some pressure at the back of his neck, and he was a sportsman, so when he wasn't working, he was doing Krav Maga, cycling, football, anything, sort of he can get into. He loved it. And, he, at the back of his mind, his parents both, suffered from cancer, and he was eating healthy. He didn't smoke. If he was drinking, it was just sociably, and a very light drinker. And so he was very conscious, about sort of living a healthy life, because in the back of his mind, he was thinking, this could get me.
mm-hmm.
And, he was 40. And, we thought, sort of, he's still too young for anything to happen to him. So, fast forward to, it was Father's Day, and he'd been complaining about having migraines. He had just started a new job, and he was just losing his sense of horizon. And he'd been told the whole time, 6 months, they kept telling him, oh, you've got vertigo, which is an inner ear infection. Here, take some pills for the sickness, you'll be fine. And it just wouldn't go away. And I was, I think, about 5 months pregnant, and I came back from a sort of a filmmaking course. And, I just took one look at him, and he couldn't get up. He was just laying on the sofa. And every time he got up, he kept throwing up.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to a point where, sorry for the graphic details, he was throwing up his green stomach acid. And I called the ambulance. And I said, you've got to take him, because he's not only sick, but he is now dehydrated. It's like, they're like, well, maybe if he tries the anti-sickness meds, he'll be. I was like, no, listen, you either take him now, or you take him tomorrow, which will be the third day, and he'll be in a worse state. So, and then I mentioned my sister as a doctor, and I got advice from her, and they're like, oh, your sister's a doctor. Okay, we'll take him. And I was like, what? I'm telling you how to do your job. And and you keep thinking everything will be fine. I always give to charity, especially with cancer. I'm always contributing. You think that makes you immune, but it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And I remember, because I didn't have a car, I was on the bus, and I had to get to the hospital, and I just thought to myself, right, I'm going to bring him home today, that all this is just nonsense. And as I sort of entered the room where he was lying, he told me that, he'd had an MRI, and I thought everything would be fine. There'll be nothing. And, just as I got there, a student doctor was telling him that he had a mass sort of in the back of his brain, and it was inoperable. So you can imagine sort of my world just collapsed entirely on me. Like you just have this out of body experience that you just can't believe this is happening to you. Mm-hmm. And I sort of just broke down. I was in tears, and, he kept apologizing, sort of he just felt awful for me, and, later on we had sort of some other doctors, and they said, we're going to transfer you to the specialist hospital, and they say that it can be operated on. Unfortunately, they didn't quite explain the kind of the technicalities of it, because what happened was he had like a small 2-centimeter tumor in where the spinal fluid sort of gets to your brain, and it was blocking that. And because he'd left it for such a while, it attached itself to the brainstem where all your cranial nerves are. And when they were removing it, they basically damaged 3 cranial nerves. So, so when he woke up, his soft palate wasn't working. And not only that, all your, sort of your nerves that control your swallowing were complete collapse. So his saliva was going into his lungs, and it was like he had to every it was literally every minute having to suck the saliva out of his mouth to stop him from drowning, and it was just a shock. You just felt like we weren't prepared. We were told, fine print, there may be brainstem damage, but we just never envisaged that little kind of worst case scenario would be us. And it was a lot to go through, because especially I was still pregnant at the time, and I was having to travel from home to the hospital every day. My mum was worried about me because she thought I was going to have a miscarriage. And you go on autopilot. You just try to get through one day at a time. And every time I remember going to the hospital, I kept thinking, today's the day he's going to have this miraculous recovery. And then you go home thinking, you just completely emotionally drained, because you've not had that miracle happen. And he was in hospital for 6 months, so 3 months sort of after the operation, and 3 months rehabilitation. And he came home at Christmas, and he had a tracheostomy, then that got removed. Then he had to have a peg because he could no longer eat. And I saw a very broken man, a man who was supposed to be in the prime of his life, enjoying life. And he was Italian, so he loved cooking, he loved eating, socializing, and he loved sport. Everything that he loved in life got taken away from him. And he had like a psychologist sit with him, and he admitted in front of me to the psychologist that he was suicidal. He just didn't want to live anymore. Mm-hmm. And it was very hard for me to hear that, because there I was always trying to find the silver lining in everything. Yeah. But really, he wanted someone to understand his pain. So he came home Christmas, and he was there. So I had the baby my son in October, and I arranged for him to be transferred from one hospital to mine, and he was present for the birth, which was brilliant. It was kind of like a little sunshine, sort of in a very bad storm. And so he came home, spent a little bit of time with us. It was 2 months, and he kept getting on and off pneumonia, and we thought he could handle it. It was part and parcel of his life now. And I think that the day before, he'd had like a speech, sort of kind of the salt therapist speech, and like to help him. And she told him potentially he may not be able to even swallow a morsel till another year. And he said that was like hearing that he had cancer again, for the first time. It was just devastating. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he had pneumonia. He was like, "Oh, I'll be fine." I was like, No, I'm taking you to the doctor. And I'm glad I did, because I would be kicking myself right now if I listened to him. And he did get some antibiotics, but she was like, "Don't take it unless you really have to, otherwise he'll become immune to it." Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until like, I think around 3 a.m, it was a juggling act. I had a screaming baby son who was 4 months old. Yeah. Had a husband who was very ill, and the baby kept waking up, and I just I remember him like taking off his mask, his breathing mask, and just saying, kind of spitting into the bucket, and him just saying, "I can't breathe." And he went quiet. And I thought, if he couldn't breathe, if it was really an emergency, there'd be more of an alarm. Mm-hmm. And I just sort of put our son down, and then I went back, and I could see that his lips had gone purple. And in that moment, you have this intense disbelief. Is this person breathing? Mm-hmm. This can't be happening. And I was there trying to like check it, find his heartbeat, nothing, couldn't even feel his. And all of a sudden, I just went into auto mode. I just started screaming his name, trying to give him CPR. And then I thought, I can't keep doing this. I have to call the ambulance. And it was an absolute shock. And you're numb, and after sort of him dying, sort of passing away in such a shock, you spend kind of 6 months of your life kind of with the world of the living and with the world of the dead, because you just feel like you've got a limb and it's just been amputated, and you still think it's there. It's that phantom feeling of him still being there. And then you have to deal with the aftermath. Sort of, I think I remember sort of just going to the hospital, and I knew he'd gone, because you've only got 3 minutes, and that's it. You've got serious brain damage, and when they told me he'd gone, I kind of, I knew I'd already prepared myself emotionally. So I think the doctors weren't sure what kind of reaction I'd had. I was very calm because I already knew, and in a way, it was, given how badly he suffered for 8 months, I felt relief for him, for the pain and suffering that he had to go through. And I knew that I was going to miss him, and the kids were going to be affected by this, and that was something that we were just going to have to deal with, sort of as we went along. And I think the day, sort of the morning that I came back, I had to explain to my 5-year-old daughter, that sort of her dad's just gone, and she was very close to him, and they had a very strong bond. And I just said to her, Dad, how Daddy's been really ill for the past few months, and now he's fallen asleep and he can't wake up, and he's gonna go sort of kind of be up with the stars, sort of thing. Try to give her that some kind of
glow a little bit.
Yeah, kind of make her feel that even though he's not physically around, she can sort of look to the stars and have that spirituality still there for her, as something that she can grasp. And so, after that, it's been a it's been a journey, and raising 2 kids on my own. That it's true, what doesn't kill you does make you stronger. And I don't beat myself up about things that I know I'm not going to raise my kids like every other set of parents, because there's only me, and sometimes you're just going to have to choose your battles and let them get away with things that sort of the average kid may not get away with. So, but at the end of the day, you can be really strict, or you can drive yourself nuts, or you can just try to sort of cope with there being only one of you, and you've got 2 kids sort of to raise.
And that was one of the things, again, when I went through my divorce, my kids were very young. Mm-hmm. They knew that Dad was there. My battle was not letting my anger and resentment get the better of me and take it out on my children, and, kind of protect them from that. So anybody who was like, oh, that jerk, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, don't put me in a position to defend him,
mm-hmm.
But for myself, my father died 10 years ago. That is even though we've had other family members who died from cancer,
mm-hmm.
I am the oldest child, mm-hmm. and he was like my very first love, and so we were very close, and to the point where people were like, I don't understand how you guys can be in the same room, like me and my dad, and not talk. We would just hang out, and he would listen to music and things like that. And, trying to explain that to my children, where it's not their dad, mm-hmm. they didn't understand what I might've been going through. And at 38, he was 59 when
that's still young. Yeah,
still very young. And I'm on the countdown, I'm 47. I'll be 48 this year. I think, okay, well, if I make it to 59, then, maybe I'll make it to 60. I seem to have that countdown. But, kind of going to what you were saying before, it was a shock. I mean, we knew he was sick. And he had made all of his kids promise. He's like, please don't put me in a home. I want to die, surrounded by family and people who love me. And so, that was something that he wanted to do. I feel like I was there when he kind of knew that he was going to die. And then from there, it was just so quick. It was like, his health degraded. It was so fast. And at the time I was singing at the church, every week. And, I would be up at the rail and I said, listen, if you're not going to send a miracle, take him quick.
Yeah.
And when he died, it was still such a shock to me. It was just like, I can't believe that happened, And so I totally relate to that, like that ever-present hope that, that miracle is going to happen until it's not. And then you're just slapped. I mean, it's like a bucket of cold water thrown on you. And you're like, what do I do with this? And I mean, to this day, I still have my bad days. So I can just imagine, having a spouse, somebody that you choose to be in your life is no longer there. And so even though the years have passed, I'm sure that there are good and bad days.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you were saying that, you went through a divorce, in a way, you are mourning the death of your relationship with your, with your ex-husband. And so there is, you go through the 7 stages, and you were talking about sort of anger and resentment and, trying not to take it out on the kids. And I did go through a period of a lot of anger because I didn't think it was fair, because, how can somebody who tried so hard to be healthy, lose his life at such a young age? When there are people, I remember coming out of Ealing Tube Station, and it was a summer like 2013. It was a proper heat wave, and everyone was standing having a cigarette. There was like a massive group of people. It was like a gust of nicotine smoke, and I'm there pregnant walking through this, trying to hold my breath, and I was thinking, like,
you're
this
angry.
is not fair. This is even
like
more angry. Yeah, no. And then sort of I think there was this I think he was a Jehovah's Witness, and he asked me, if you could ask God anything, what would it be? I was just like, now's not the time to ask me, because you won't like my answer, because I'm
a Jehovah's Witness would be running away from you.
I think I was very angry. I kind of just started questioning everything, and just why, because you have all these people smoking and damaging their health, and they seem to be okay. So why is someone who tried so hard to, so, and then, I did feel like at some point that had to change, because I didn't want my kids suffering, because, I was going through, through this bad, situation where I just felt angry all the time, and they were getting caught up in it. So I just thought, I'm going to just do my best to try and make myself happy, do all the things that I wanted to do when I was a kid, and never got around to doing it. So I treated it like my second chance. And, at the end of the day, you want to be around a happy person. You don't want to be around somebody who's constantly miserable and makes your life a misery. And that was my goal. Of course, with my mum-in-law, it was very difficult for her, because she has 2 boys and he was her youngest. And, she really suffered. And, our relationship really deteriorated quite quick. We had a really good relationship, and then all of a sudden it just deteriorated really quickly. And it took us a long time to just get back. I think we both changed, sort of as a matter of, him passing away. But, but also we had to kind of learn to get on with each other. A lot of alcohol is involved. A glass of wine when we're having a nice bowl of pasta works a treat, But yeah, no, we get on really well now, and sort of it's much happier times. I mean, yeah, I can see the sadness in her still, and for me, I still have memories, like of him, and I still remember, I still remember, like, I memorized his hand, especially, when I went to the morgue, like, because I just wanted to memorize every single detail about him because I didn't want to forget him. And, it is like, it's part of your soul is ripped out of you. And I was saying to somebody, like, when you lose somebody like your father, it's like a void. Mm-hmm. And for a few months, I spent a lot of time and effort trying to fill that void, and you can't fill it. It is like a black hole. And the only answer is to kind of rebuild your life around that void. You have to learn to live with it. It's there. You're stuck with it. And, it's scar tissue that's just never going to heal. And yeah, sort of I'm now happily making lemonade, as they say.
Yes, definitely. Now we're going to be right back. I hesitate to even put up this advertising only because it's so happy after all of the sad.
Oh no, so yeah, let's have our sunshine.
We'll be right back after this. Cards, the Universe, and Everything is a trading card collecting battle card game that has a little something from everything. From the Old West to outer space and everything in between, Cards, the Universe, and Everything is great for gamers and collectors of all ages. Download it from your app store, and as you collect hundreds of available cards, there are more weekly, so you can craft up to 10 decks and battle against your friends and other players from around the world. And if you're an educator, check out cardstheuniverseandeverything.com for a special offer for you and your students. And we're back. This is WildOne Forever, and my special guest is Eskander. Did I say it right?
Eskander.
Eskander.
Yeah, just think Alexander Eskander.
Eskander. Yeah. Okay, there you go. I'm just putting the wrong emphasis on the on the wrong syllable. Okay, so on to I think maybe less sad things. You grew up, and correct me if I'm wrong. You grew up in the Middle East.
I did. Well, what happened was I was born in Baghdad. I mean, my parents are from Iraq, and my dad's a doctor, so he graduated from med school and decided to do his specialty in the UK. I was 3 at the time, and what happened was war broke out between Iraq and Iran, and my dad, at the time was still working and still trying to get his specialty sorted out, and it was just difficult to go back, and so then we became British in 1988, and my parents had this great idea to take me and my 3 other siblings who were born in the UK to Saudi Arabia and kind of build a nest egg before we went back to Iraq. And for me, that was like a massive culture shock, to go from being completely anglicized to like being exposed to like sort of the Arab world. And back then,
what was that like? I mean, I understand the culture shock. I mean, maybe you had some of that at home because I have a Korean mother.
Yeah.
And so we had the food. I had the language in the house when I was much younger.
Yeah. I think we did. Like? Well, it was like we had the food, and my mum sort of would speak to us in Arabic, and I think she would like tutor us, to try and make sure that if we were ever to go back, it wouldn't be such a problem. But really it was, because, I was just way behind. I was like, English was basically the first language now, but like in terms of, my parents were pretty liberal, sort of, they weren't strict they weren't religiously strict. So, even for them, Saudi Arabia was a bit of a culture shock, because I mean, back then, when, women weren't allowed to drive. You were restricted, and like, for instance, like if you wanted to go to a fast food place, there was the entrance for families and the entrance for men only. Or like video shops, if you wanted to rent a video, you had to wait outside and send.
Now you said for families and men only.
Yeah.
That kind of makes me think that they didn't have a women only entrance.
No, I don't think. No, they didn't have a women only because basically a woman wasn't allowed to be walking around by herself. So if you had like a 7-year-old brother, he could be your acting chaperone, if say for instance your son could be your chaperone. It was just madness, and there was, at the time, there was a lot of religious police that would just, like if, for instance, I refused on principle, I like the expats would just cover their shoulders with an abaya, and I didn't want to get the grief, so I covered all my hair up. But that was still never enough. You do get the religious police shouting at you to cover your face. And on principle, I just, would ignore them. If they got too much in my face, then I would just lift it up. 2 seconds later, they're gone out, bring it back down again, because I just didn't feel like it was right. I was always against having my face covered, because I felt like I am equal to a man, and therefore I should behave in that manner. And if I'm okay like with the idea that you have to dress modestly, okay, that's fine, but why do I have to cover my face? Why do I have to kind of like always compromise myself just because a man can't control his urges? It just drove me up the wall. I was 16 at the time, and I had a best friend who was originally from Somalia, and we were like raging feminists, constantly on the phone, like just that we had some radical views. And how we didn't get arrested, I don't know, for the things that we said over the phone. I think we just weren't worth the trouble, just hot air.
Wow, I can imagine.
Yeah, so
we actually do have a question in here from someone in the Comic Book Advocate, and it says, was it a culture shock to move to the UK after that time in the Middle East? I would think that felt like freedom. Or was it more of a relief that you were free from that sex-based oppression?
Great question. So while we were there, we would have like holidays to the US, and we went to, or the UK. So in a way, it wasn't like it was a continuous 6 years of being completely out of it. And so, but when I did come back to the UK, because all my friends had in Saudi had American accents, because they'd all lived in the US. So I had a bit of an American twang to my voice, and I said things in an American way. So you can imagine, sort of people like, I'd say sharpener, and they're like, what? Or like, for instance, if somebody's angry, you have to say, like in America, you say pissed, he's pissed. You can't say that in the UK, because pissed means drunk.
Right.
So I'd say, it's like, is he pissed? And then I'd say off. So there'd be like a little hesitation. And, things like, I think it was just the slang and stuff. It was a bit of a shock for me. I just felt like a fish out of water, trying to get back into, sort of the mentality of it, the mentality of sort of the UK, because I felt like I'd been living under a rock for 6 years. Yeah. So that's the answer to the question. It wasn't a shock, but it was kind of like an adjustment period. I'm sorry to say, I had to kind of get rid of the Americanisms as quickly as possible, because it was causing issues.
Well, I have to say, a friend of mine from England, she came over for a visit. This was when I was in college, and she says, "Oh my gosh, I need a fag." And I was just like, you need a what? She's like, I want to light a fag. And I was like, you want to do what?
You can get arrested for
that. It's a cigarette. And I was like, you can't say that.
I know. Earlier on, when I was talking about walking out of the tube station, I had to make sure I didn't say fag. I said cigarette. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, just some of the culture things, even though we're speaking, English, kind of. There are these changes that especially when you're traveling, you have to be careful, and especially being that we can live stream and reach across the globe and everything.
Yeah.
People are like, "What did she just say?" Yeah, it has to be. And Sarah's laughing. Yes, she knows, and Rob Anderson. You're just an American gal at heart.
Oh, of course, yeah, no, it's hilarious. When I emailed, I was going to say when I emailed Timothy initially, I was like, you know what, I'm going to be culture sensitive and write all my words in the American form, and then it got to a point where I was just getting, so it was too much of an effort. I was like, you know what, I'm going to send it color has a U, humor has a U. So I just I'll just send it. He'll think it's very quirky, a quirky British thing. But yeah, no, it's there is some American in me.
Now, do you say Z or do you say Z?
Do you know what? I switch. I'm a little bit confused, honestly. I came back when I was about 18. So, I spent my teenage years, in Saudi, being taught the American system of English. And then you come back and I'm like, oh, you know what? This is confusing. And I think after how many years, I'm still confused. Yeah, no, because sometimes I say Z. No, actually, I do say Z. But yeah, no, it's hilarious that my children, they watch so many American shows that my daughter will come up to me and, will put on this American accent. And I'm like, what, And I guess she wants to be an actress. So the fact that she can, sponge off other people like that is a good trait to have. So, yeah.
And Rob is saying, because Rob, I know, is a history buff. He just loves history. He says the Revolutionary War was just about the way you guys spoke. We didn't want to be associated with your slang.
And that's why you threw the tea. You threw the tea away.
And everything else, and your color, and your favorite, and all. That extra "you" just screws me up. Matthew Harris is in the background here. He says, "You've been to quite a few places, but if you could visit anywhere without COVID, where would you like to go?"
Well, I mean, I've been to New York, and I definitely want to go back. California as well. And I want to take the kids to Disney World. And also, the last, I think it was 2 Christmases ago, I was in Miami, and that's when I met up with Timothy as well. And then there was the art exhibition at the time. So I'd like to do that. I'm just thinking, there's so many places in Europe that have got all this history that I'd really like to go see, in Luxembourg, there's just these kind of fairy tale like places. Just thinking of New Zealand, kind of to do more with the Lord of the Rings thing. I'm just
no geek girl there.
No, of course not.
And Sarah wants to hear you do an American accent. Do your best John Wayne. I would be terrible at it.
I can't remember. It's like, oh my God, did you really think it was like? Oh no, that's terrible.
That's like Valley Girl. That's like so 80s California.
We were watching Clueless, and that's pretty much how the girls spoke. I did have a friend, she was from Glendale, California, and they spoke, it was so airy, like airy fairy.
Yeah. It's Sarah's still waiting for her bag.
That's what-
Light up. I quit a couple decades ago. I've tried picking it up a few times because I felt like I was in a bad place and it never took. But yeah, I totally miss cigarettes. So I do. Okay, so funny, quirky thing about your name, because again, I started seeing you on the circuit a couple of weeks ago, and I saw your name, and I says, I'm not saying her name because I'm going to say it wrong, like really, really.
I grew up with all the connotations, so when you're like, it's like I could see all, it's like kind of like all the little words on in your mind. I was like,
because this is not your real name.
Oh,
you were born with a different name, yes?
Well, it was. I mean, basically, when I came to the UK, it was, on my birth certificate, it was just in Arabic, and it was just 3 letters, ANS, NS, because they use accents. So then it was left to me when I got my British passport, it was left to me to try and kind of fill in those gaps. And I thought to myself, all right, you know what? Like, how about I'll be an Anna with an S at the end, and not realizing the years of pain that were to follow because, I was getting Annecy balls and ass and like anus. And I was like, oh, I've heard it all. If I had a penny for every, I'd be a millionaire by now. And and at one point, I think that somebody said to me, it would have made more sense if you changed the A's to E's, and that would have helped, because you have like NS as well, which is ENNIS, which is very similar. And I did think about changing it, and my late husband said to me, no, just you're done, you're stuck with it now, just leave it.
Well, the funny name story that I have is, again, my mother is Korean, and there are 2 sounds in the Korean language that do not exist in their language, and that's the R and the TH, which is pretty predominant in Meredith. So I was asking my mother, because she literally came over on a plane, pregnant with me. And it was like, talk about culture shock, language. They have symbols as well for their language, for their alphabet. And I was like, it took probably about 30 years before I had the nerve to ask her, and I go, what were you thinking? Like, was I the child whose name shall not be mentioned? I'm like, what did you call me when I was a kid? Because she couldn't say Meredith, and my earliest memory of my cousins coming in to stay with us or visit, they called me Mete or Merede, because they could not say the R or the TH. So it was just one of those funny, crazy things. So I just loved the names, And the fact that you're living with it, you're like, whatever, because at some point you're like, whatever, dude,
Yeah, it's like, I mean, here we have national savings and investments, and I love bringing them up because they're like, hello, this is NS and I. How can I help you? What's your name? And I'm like, NS, and they think it's a joke, and it's like, it's not a joke.
Oh my goodness. Let me see here. Sarah says, no one wants to say my name either. They should see it before I kept my ex-husband's last name. No one can pronounce it. $50 to anyone who can pronounce my maiden name. Oh.
Vanskiok? Vanskiok?
No idea. Is that Sarah? Is that like
and then we've got Vanskiok.
Yeah, we've got a few people who are trying it.
Yeah. It's really a lot of people desperate for that $50.
What's funny is that if I was back into singing some more, I would probably use Singer's Diction and give it a shot. But without knowing where the name comes from, that's a little bit difficult. So that would be cheating.
Dutch? Do you think the van is Dutch?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, they've got it's so
she did it's a Dutch last name.
Very cool. All right. Any Dutch friends? Actually, I do have some Dutch friends. I could cheat, but There were, well, I can't believe that we're already 44 minutes into this.
I think
And I
Matthew's got
do.
a question there. It says, "What is your favorite sci-fi movie?"
Oh, yes.
I really like that. I was going to say, I think sort of the first one that I absolutely fell in love with was Back to the Future, and it was around the time when everyone had those Casio calculator watch, and we all thought we were the bee's knees for, you know. And I remember it was, I think it was Christmas Eve. We went to the cinema, and there's Marty McFly in the the phone booth, and his watch goes off, and I'm like, oh my god, it's my watch. It's my watch is in the film. It was like, I that feeling, I felt so elated. I felt there was some kind of connection, and I absolutely fell in love with him. I fell in love with the movie. I've always been a Michael J. Fox fan. And, that really stuck with me. And I still, to this day, I've even kitted the kids out in Back to the Future t-shirts, And, other sort of later on, I sort of came across Blade Runner. Absolutely love Blade Runner. And also the documentary behind it, the trials and tribulations. There was a whole movie in itself about how the men in suits were just like pulling the plug on it, and they're still trying to get it to the end. And I thought that was very inspiring, that how they persevered through all, the things going wrong, and, they still managed to make it. And I think another film that I really like is Gattaca. I find that really empowering, because, it's kind of, just because you're not sort of designed to be sort of like almost heroic, you can be through your drive and perseverance. And if you really want something, just go for it. And I loved the message in that, and it's such a beautiful movie. And I guess the references always, if you look at Blade Runner and Gattaca, that 1940s costume reference, it's always a formula that works every time, because it's so classic, but then it can also look really futuristic as well and not date the film. So yeah, you can tell I'm a bit of a geek.
And I'm just going to pop this up here and do a little bit of promo for WildOne Forever. WildOne Forever, empowering attitude and lifestyle for women. If you go over to wildoneforever.com and sign up for the newsletter, you will be entered for this beautiful watch by Nordgreen. They are one of our sponsors. If you join the mail list by September 4th, we will be doing a drawing by September 12th for one lucky winner. Okay, and we're back.
I'm just reading the comments with Sarah Sarah. I keep wanting to sing K Sarah. Sorry, Sarah.
Barry Grant is in the background. He says, if Ennis can pull off a Valley Girl accent, I'll do a trading card for your book. Do it.
Oh my God, she's wearing the same dress as me. How dare she?
How was that, Marion?
It's been a long time.
It's like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
And what's funny is that we have to fling the hair when we do that. It's like, oh my God.
At the moment, I'm having hairbrush shoes. I'm trying to keep it out my face.
Give a shout out to Barry Grant, because Indie Volt Radio, and I want to thank you for tuning in and listening. This is WildOne Forever. This is not really comic books, but we are actually going to talk about EYVA next. But we do have a couple of questions here, or maybe not questions. Ennis, I'm waiting for that new tier on your IndieGoGo. So he wants to see it so that he can support it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it'll be on after this.
And Varian says he better do the drawing. Absolutely. Well, I don't know. Maybe next time we have you on. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a next time. We're just going to do like Valley Girl the whole time. I think that would be fun.
I will practice my Valley Girl.
That would be so much fun. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little break here and actually play your intro to EYVA. So anybody who is tuning in with WildOne Forever and you're not that familiar with comic books, or you're maybe like, I don't know, we want to get into her comic book and why you might want to tune in and support the IndieGoGo and actually get this in your hot little hand. I love the story behind this.
EYVA is a cyberpunk comic book series based on a love of 80s sci-fi and fantasy fiction. The story is set in the Ardent Nation, an upbeat, stylized technological utopia set in the 23rd century. However, all is not what it seems, Individuality and privacy are rare commodities that only the governing elite are privileged to. So imagine, if you will, social media becoming the governing body of a surviving nation. Everything about you and what you do since the day you were born is automatically streamed onto your timeline. This is then monitored by a totalitarian regime known as MAINFRAME. MAINFRAME's prime directive is to compete for technological advancement and for survival in a post-apocalyptic world. In the spirit of fighting cyber-terrorism, people of the Ardent Nation are kept on a short leash through the use of surveillance implants. The message is simple: comply with MAINFRAME's standard behavior protocol or be rehabilitated. It's all about working as a collective for a common cause whilst suppressing any scope for individual thought and self-expression. EYVA is now complete and ready for publication. It's a labour of love that's been brought to life by the epic illustrative skills of Timothy Green II. It's an extraordinary journey, one of which we hope our readers will join us on.
All right, we're back. It's ringing.
I'd like to thank Sarah for the compliment, awesome video, and she made the comment about the name. Yeah, originally when I did the video, originally it was EYVA, and then I thought maybe I was confusing people by sticking the Y in and having it start with an E. I was just trying to be very confusing, because that's my signature. And then I thought, let's go with EYVA then. And then I just really didn't like it. And now
go back to EYVA then.
And now I've gone back to being confusing again. And we've gone back to EYVA. So that's in answer to it. The next video will be pronounced EYVA.
Now, so you mentioned earlier that your father is a doctor.
Oh, yeah.
And I know with my family, because I have the creative, I do the singing, I love to write. I'm kind of like often doing this thing. And my parents were like, why couldn't you just be a programmer? I mean, again, I think it's a cultural thing, especially with Asian.
Yeah.
I can imagine with Middle East.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing. I mean, what were your parents like when you said, I'm going to be an artist?
Oh, yeah. No, they were like, no, first of all, my mum blamed herself for all the dressmaking because that runs in her side of the family. We all, it was kind of like, you're either a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, or a pharmacist, or just an architect. And, you know, they kind of were a bit worried. They were like, well, how are you going to make a living out of being a fashion designer? You know, this is art. I mean, you know, in their heads, all artists are starving, and, you know, it's not a way to go. But I kind of persevered. I didn't, you know, I did ask one of their friends who was a doctor, and I asked her, you know, I'm going down the route of either doctor or fashion designer. And she's like, she looked at me and she was like, definitely fashion designer. Being a doctor sucks. You know, I think I caught her on a bad day. I was like, okay, cool. See, Dad, she says to be a fashion designer. And he was just like, just how many fashion designers are out there, you know? And he doesn't realize that they're all there, like, working behind the scenes in the factories. You know, there's always the suppliers and the, you know, the retailers. You know, there's a number of them. And whenever ever I moan about my job, my mum's always like, you see, I told you, you should have become a pharmacist. And every time, see, if you had become a pharmacist, you wouldn't have had to bring your work home with you. So now I try not to complain about my job.
Well, now you've been in fashion for 15 years?
Yeah, nearly 15 years. You know,
have you worked for different fashion houses? Do you design your own? Have you just kind of been maybe like the girl in the background that nobody knows? Or
I think
what is that journey like?
Well, when I was at university, I did work experience for a number of designers, and you know, it's really exciting because you get to go to London Fashion Week and help out, and it's amazing, all that work for like just it's sort of a 45-minute show. It's really it's kind of a real massive buzz. And I still remember my graduate show. We spent like 6 months making our outfits for only like a 40-second, you know, stroll down the catwalk. And they said to us, listen, you have a choice. Either you could go down the route of designer fashion, where it's very tough to get into and the money's not that great, or you can go to more the commercial side, where that's where the money is, and you know, you will be appreciated a whole lot more rather than sweeping the floor and making coffees. So I think at the time I was very desperate to prove my parents wrong, that you can get a job in this industry. And so I took a job where I only knew Photoshop at the time. And I went in, I was like so fresh, and they were like, oh, you know, do you know how to use Illustrator? I was like, no. And they're like, don't worry, you'll pick it up in like, you know, a few weeks. They dropped me in the deep end. I think my manager for the first 6 weeks absolutely hated me, because I was just like constantly, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? So that's how I learned Illustrator. And to this day, you know, that was 18 years ago. So, you know, I was doing sportswear. I absolutely love doing designing sportswear. It's, you know, it's so easy to, I mean, it's my thing. I feel comfortable in it. You can get really stylish. You know, I mentioned the other day I was doing an Adidas project, and then Varian was like, what, say that again? Adidas. And it's like, oh, sorry, I mean Adidas.
Right, the wrong syllable in the spot again.
Yeah, so yeah, it's that's the kind of fashion, you know, where I basically work with the factories in the Far East, and I'm constantly, it's like a juggling act. You're not only designing, you're troubleshooting, you're making sure that you meet costs, and you know, if there's like a hiccup, you know, you're there sort of on email doing your admin, trying to make sure that this production line gets sorted. So it is really exciting, but is very behind the scenes. And, you know, in terms of like me trying to sort of start my own label, it is a very difficult thing to do unless, you know, you're really talented in the production side. Now I can make my own patterns. I think I made 3 pajama bottoms for my daughter, which I'm very proud of. But I'm such a perfectionist, and this is where I stumble. Like, I'm too much of a perfectionist to a point where I just don't get enough done to show sort of how good I am at it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so at the moment it's just the drawing.
So how did that segue into a comic book, though?
So when I'm doing my portfolio, there's the creative direction side where you're always doing all these mood boards. And I love, that's the one thing that I just love, coming up with the ideas and the twists, and collecting imagery and then putting them on a PowerPoint, just to say, well, this could be what the world looks like. This could be what the gadgets could look like. And, that was kind of from my fashion training. And, if you go onto Instagram, there is a few boards which I actually put together for Timothy. And, it was good for him because it's so hard to try and verbally describe how you see something. And doing those mood boards, from which evolved from the fashion training, really
Yeah, I think I'm going to pull a couple of these up. I have your Instagram here. Let me see if I can share the screen. Unfortunately, when I'm sharing the screen, I don't see the tab that I'm in. So let's just go in here and just let me know when to stop if you want me to pull something up. Let me just do this.
Yeah, so on
the covers here.
Yes. So that's the variant cover that we went with. And then if you close that one, then there's purple and red on the left.
Okay, this one?
Yes, this one. So that was one of the mood boards where you've got the opening scene, and she's in the club, and I said, kind of want all these colors. And that's kind of what inspired the...
Kind of like that sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then I think, because I've been through here before, and again, some of the artwork and stuff, this is another one I would assume another movie.
Yes, so that one was looking at futuristic interiors, and I'm a big Zaha Hadid fan. She was an architect, and she did the 1000. There's a building in Miami called the 1000 Museum, which they're currently building. And it was the last building that she designed before she passed away. And she is just an amazing architect. It's like they called her the Queen of the Curve. And, so that's what inspired. I think it was all my love for, the different artists and architects, and just throwing it into...
So I'm seeing
so that's kind of when I gave him the mood boards, he went on and did these sketches and developed the locations and the interiors. And that was sort of, I even thought about, if she had a tattoo, what tattoo would it be? And I really liked having sort of the 4 elements and as triangles. It's kind of reminiscent of the stones in the 5th Element. I did like the idea of the tattoo. And this is a Zaha Hadid painting, and that was kind of to inspire a color theme through the comic. I mean, it started off as a starting point, and then we kind of evolved. And
then I'm seeing this, which kind of gives me like that, almost like that Death Star vibe, but at the same time you're seeing trees and things.
Yeah, no, these are tree houses. So this is actually work that's been done for the second issue, because we didn't know when we were starting out, we didn't know how much material we could get from the script into the first issue, and so we got to a point where we could only get Act 1 in, and that's from Act 2. So issue 2 is going to have the forest and the tree houses, and kind of these people who are so anti-technology. They're just living a basic life, and in some ways it's kind of relating to my childhood fantasy of living in a tree house.
Here we go. This is the dream board with that influence.
Yeah, so that was what I showed him, and then he just did his own version.
And I see the influence with this too.
Yeah. They look amazing. Do you know, it reminds, oh yes, and this is her outfit. So I got taken to a burlesque club for a leavers do once. It was my girlfriends from work. They're like, where should we take you? I don't know, just you decide. So yeah, they took me to a burlesque club and I was completely smitten. You know, I just absolutely loved the vibe. I loved the costumes. I loved the art of the teas. And I absolutely love Dita Monteith as well. I'm just completely hypnotized by her. She's so graceful, and
now this, I wanted to bring this up because this was mentioned yesterday, and we see Timothy Green II here before the Buscema's, before Stan Lee, and as an illustrator, I mean, you basically hit a home run finding your illustrator. How did that happen?
In my head, I wanted an illustrator that was just, I kind of knew the style that I wanted, and I had his graphic novel for Aeon Flux, and I was really struggling. I was new to the whole world of comics. I only had a few books, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to start looking for people. And I came across a few people and I wasn't really hitting a home run with them. And then I thought, you know what, how about I just try to find this guy called Timothy Green II. And
I'm just going to find this guy.
It was, yeah. So I found him on DeviantArt, and I just sent him an email and I said, listen, I'm kind of working on this project. And I'm really struggling to find an illustrator who can actually sort of do the style of drawing that you do. And, you know, would you be interested, or do you know anyone who would be sort of would fit that bill, you know, like, and he was like, you know what, I'm freelancing. I really like your story, and, you know, I'd be happy to work with you. So I was lucky, you know, that he liked the story, and, you know, and I didn't even know who I was dealing with. I just thought, yeah, it's an illustrator, you know, and I like his style. I mean, I didn't even know that he had this credit on Guardians of the Galaxy until I think it was last week, because I knew he worked on Star-Lord, but then I didn't clock on to the fact that it was kind of before Guardians of the Galaxy was made. And he is such a humble guy that, you know, he's not one to boast. I mean, that's why, you know, I said to him, why don't you come on these shows with me? He's like, no. I like to be behind a closed door in my room doing the drawings. You do the talking. And I was just like, cheers, thanks. So, you know, he said, look, being humble is a good trait. Okay, it's bad for business, but, you know, that's the way to go. I mean, he was the one that encouraged me to do the video where I do actually do the talking. And he said, just, yeah, they'll love your accent. Just do a video with you talking and we're good.
I don't know why Americans love a British accent. You know, I mean, even in our movies, you know, whenever it's serious, they have to have an English accent. And I just think it's kind of funny. But Matthew Harris here says exactly, Sarah, the voiceover is all Mainframe-esque. The big brother sister kind of feel. Her accent is perfect for it, and she gives us enough to want more.
I was kind of channeling Jeremy Irons in Die Hard.
Oh my gosh. Let's see here. That dress is gorgeous, of course. We'd sport it together if we could zip line across the pond, so we could go out in those dresses.
Yeah.
Not high, that might fit on a thigh. Yeah. So I don't do like naked or even close to naked.
I thought to, do you know, I thought to myself, you know what I could do? I could do T-shirts where it's like, you know, the jewels are like strategic. So it looks like you've got this amazing, you know, figure with these bejeweled, you know, bits. And, you know.
Oh, my goodness. Matthew Harris says, wait, Ennis is gorgeous inside and out, is strong, smart, into comics, a bona fide geek, and likes half-naked women and stripteases. Shit, I may be in love.
Do you know, the funny thing was, when I was at the London Screenwriters Festival, we had a lady called Pilar Alessandra, and she used to work for DreamWorks. And we sat in a room, and she was doing a talk, and she was like, I hate it when people, you know, every time I get guys doing stripper scenes, enough. And I kind of started squirming into the background, and I turned to my friend, it's like, my script starts with a stripper scene. and then you know, she actually read my script, and she said, she looked at me and she's like, listen, I'll let you off because you're a girl. And otherwise I would tell you to take it out, because it's such a cliche.
You've mentioned strippers, you've mentioned a love of burlesque previously. I mean, like, do you just say, hey, this is for research, and you just go, or is it just like, whatever, I'm just gonna go? Because I honestly love burlesque.
Yeah.
And I love drag queens, and I love that. That to me is just so much fun entertainment.
Oh, no, yeah, I absolutely love it. I've got, you know, I sort of, on one date, I went on a date to a burlesque club, and they serve you dinner, and it's I really got a strong following. It was people of all ages, you know, women and men. So, you know, there's nothing shameful about it. It's it's a beautiful art form, and there's kind of a comedy acts as well. I know. Okay, the strip club. I may have ventured into one, and it was the excuse was it was my late husband's 30th birthday. We weren't married at the time, and I was trying to be the cool girlfriend. So I just thought, okay, let's go to a strip club. And then for his 30th, I bought him a lap dance while he was sat next to me, right? And then, so the girl started talking to him, and she's like, oh, where are you from? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm from Venice, Italy. And she's like, oh, really? I'm from Milan. And then I thought, you know what? I said, no, I didn't pay for the talking. This is getting way too intimate. You know, I have issues with the talking. You can
dancing though.
You can carry on with the dancing, but the talking is getting way too intimate for my liking.
I know the first time I went into a strip club, it was with my ex, and I think it was just to see what my reaction might be. And so we're sitting there at the bar, and I say bar because that's what they were dancing on, but you know, obviously it was just non-alcoholic and stuff. And so this woman is there, and she's like, she's dancing and she's grinding. I mean, she's absolutely beautiful, right? But the only thing that I could think of was, oh my God, you shave everywhere. I was like, wow. This is WildOne forever, folks, in case you forgot.
Well, hey, we're living up to the title. It got a bit wild.
Oh my gosh. And Phil Locklear is in the house here. He says, I would be tripping over my own words having Ennis on my show, but I am willing to try anyway. For the fans, of course. Wink, wink. And Phil Locklear, if you are not familiar, he does Demon Phillies comics and more, New Jersey, and he has a great show, Ennis. So if you're doing the circuit, you might want to talk to this guy. Phil, I thought you were in the middle of moving. So
make exceptions.
Yeah, you know what? But that's the thing. This is what I love about indie creators. It's like we're hungry and we're going to go out there, and it doesn't matter if we're moving. It doesn't matter if we're going through all of this. I lost power the other day, right before the indie event, and I was just like, oh my God, what's my plan B? And I was like, if I have to take my laptop and go hang out at the library and get free Wi-Fi, that's what I'm going to do.
I think you just described my life. It's like, if there's an issue, if there's something in my way, I find numerous solutions to get around it, and that's survival.
And Matthew says that's why we want her over here, to get to know her better. And Rob Anderson earlier said, let's get you over here to MegaCon 2021. Hopefully the world.
I'm laughing at Rob's remark, and it sounds like a dude talking about strippers. Hello. Oh, it's coming out now, isn't it?
Oh,
I started off all sweet and innocent, and now the layers are starting to fall, and
yeah, the true colors are coming out.
The true colors are coming out,
That's one of the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to do a different flavor for this show because it is a totally different audience. It's mostly women centric, but not women exclusive. That's one of the things that I love about WildOne Forever. But I actually want to pop Matthew in here because he popped in a surprise giveaway last night while you were on Geek Insider, Geek Speak with Matthew Harris and myself. And one of the things that we were doing is this backpack is actually the giveaway for anyone who is a physical backer for your IndieGoGo, and they have until the end of your campaign to qualify to be in this drawing. We're going to be doing a live drawing afterwards, for posterity's sake. But for all of the geeks out there and all the audience in WildOne Forever, if you're tuning in, this is a great chance to get some Mobile Edge gear. This backpack is Matthew. Why don't you pop in here real quick and let us know?
Hi, Matthew.
Hello. This is a gaming backpack, guys. This isn't just a normal backpack. This has ports for you to plug power into. It has the USB ports for your gaming gear, whether your laptop or console. You can see it on mobileedge.com. It is the hard shell backpack. It is $129 value. And yet anybody that backs EYVA, how are we saying it now? EYVA. Anybody that backs this as for a physical copy between now and you only got like 4.5 days left, but you send me a screenshot, you can black out your personal info, but email that to me at Matthew@Geek Insider. We'll do a live draw the day after the fundraiser ends, and if you have backed it, somebody is going to walk away with this backpack.
Mm-hmm. And I can say the first one to pop in here was Phil Lockler when he was watching the show last night. So kudos to you. Hopefully, hopefully we've got a lot of people who are joining in, paying attention, and hopping on that opportunity. So what do we have it here? So I noticed today IndieGoGo is marking the dates you backed the project wrong. I backed it today, but it lists it at 2 weeks ago. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, Rob, we get it. Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, wink, wink. Now, one of the things that I love about this character of EYVA is that she's very strong.
Yeah.
And I wonder, is this attributed to maybe your time in Saudi Arabia and just kind of breaking free and kind of, going against convention?
Yeah, definitely. I think, when I was at school in Saudi Arabia, the way they taught us was they give you a book, you have to memorize it, and you have to parrot it back. You are not allowed to think outside the box. You're not allowed to think for yourself. And, it really sort of inspired me to have sort of a character where she is really strong. She's not perfect, like she makes mistakes just like everyone else, but she has courage, and she's a warrior, and she's happy to kind of question authority and question, well, why is that the way it is? That's not right. Like she's not afraid to follow her own moral compass, which sort of a lot of people have had their ideas and sort of kind of individuality suppressed, where hers is shining strong. The other thing, which I love Deadpool, and I just thought to myself, like, wouldn't it be great to have like a female version sort of Deadpool, but sort of unique in her own way, where somebody just says it how it is, and damn the consequences, so she just organically grew from just everything that I think the frustrations with myself, like I wasn't always assertive. As a child, I was very introverted. I expressed myself through art, and with her, I feel like there's kind of that side of anyone who's in my situation that just wants to break out and kind of do crazy things.
That's one of the things I absolutely love about fiction writing is that I always tell people that there's bloodletting in my head.
Yeah.
Because I don't have time for jail.
Yeah.
So, but I would probably consider it a slight insult if I wasn't on some kind of a soft watch list.
I'm just seeing that little go back.
The kingdom, and they keep playing. That's all right.
There was a Deadpool imagery.
Where was that?
I didn't quite read.
But,
yeah, that's it.
Oh, see, I love that.
You've got 1 second to rephrase that and perhaps say something nice about my hair. Whoa, okay. Look,
I love that. Wow. See, now he should have a heart above his head, like I'm in love.
I just love all the kind of the little sketches he does with the Deadpool character, especially with Hugh Jackman. We absolutely love Ryan Reynolds in our house, and we always watch The Proposal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Now, if you were fangirling over any one person, who might that be?
Fangirling.
Who would you like absolutely be like, oh, I can't believe,
Well,
is there anybody?
Yeah, well, I do. I do. In terms of like superheroes or like actors that play superheroes.
It could be any. Pick a superhero or an actor who portrays.
Yeah, so I absolutely love Wolverine, and Hugh Jackman. He's even he's great, aging gracefully. And I do, like I said, I love Ryan Reynolds because he just makes me laugh. I think I'd probably break a few ribs, from the comments that come out of his mouth, and just think, I've always been a big fan of Michael J. Fox and sort of watched him over the years, and it breaks my heart to see what he's had to go through with his health, but I'm in total admiration of how he's just carried on and not let it stop him from doing the very thing that he loves to do, which is to act. I absolutely love Cara Delevingne. I think she, as a model, she's just, there's that androgyny to her, and she's so badass. And I would love to see her in the EYVA burlesque outfit.
Yeah.
Just thinking in terms of like female actresses, sort of who who I absolutely, I'm sure once I get off the show, then I'm like, there'll be a whole list, you know. So like, I mean, for instance, I love Judi Dench as M in James Bond. I thought that was such a brilliant move to, you know, bring women more into the Bond franchise. I actually wrote my thesis at the end of university on the James Bond films and the representation of women. And it was at the time when The World Is Not Enough was coming out. And I was saying, you know, how sort of, you know, women have got to stop being used as window dressing. And that's when I think Sophie Marceau kind of broke the mold. And what else? Yeah, like just thinking who else. I'm sure there's like loads of female actresses
in your you know, like the vision boards and things that you put together, do you have a list of actresses who might portray Ava if this were to become film?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, when I was doing sort of the development for the characters, so what I would, like Michael Fassbender, I loved him, and he was in Jane Eyre. And I thought I fell in love with him in Jane Eyre, and so I would kind of send pictures of like different actors and actresses, and I say this character needs to look a little bit. She's like this, basically, or like I'll do a hybrid of two different actors. Ava Green, I absolutely love Ava Green, especially when she did Penny Dreadful.
Penny Dreadful.
It was kind of like the Ava show, basically. And I think I can understand why they cancelled it, because it did kind of veer off into, it lost its original essence, you know. But yeah, I love watching her. And she's just mesmerizing. And as Vesper, you know, she was pretty cool, you know. But I've gone off track now.
Well, you know, we're hitting the 90-minute mark, and we're going to be cutting this off pretty soon. But I did want to ask you, because I kind of went off track myself, when it comes to maybe your 5-year plan, because I heard you allude to a book too. But in the scheme of things, if everything's going according to plan, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I mean, is it comic books? Is it movies? Is it fashion?
I think, you know, definitely I can see that there's a lot of potential with the comics, and I want to continue going down the comic route and just evolving it. And I see myself not just working on Ava, but maybe having another story to write, kind of, you know, just going with the artistic flow. But I really, really I'm actually surprised that I'm enjoying it a lot more, and a whole world has been opened up to me where I feel like, you know what, I'm actually doing something that I enjoy, and that I'm actually feel like I'm being received, you know, so warmly. And maybe I can do this, you know. I'm starting to sort of feel like there's this whole other world or other sort of path that I never thought that I had, you know, opening up to me. And at the end of the day, you know, if it became like a TV or a film or something, brilliant. But if it didn't, I'm just happy that I get to share, you know, like I get to share my vision, you know, with others through comics, because, you know, it's a form of, I mean, I've always loved, you know, Jane Austen and Shakespeare and all that. And I think this is, you know, being a writer, being a creator, that's something that I thrive on, and it's food for the soul. And it kind of makes me feel like a little hero in my own little world. And that's enough for me, you know.
I do want to ask about your creative process a little bit, and it could become a long answer. I don't know. But do you find that you are able to multitask and write or work on several stories at a time? or do you need to kind of use that focus when it comes to storytelling?
Definitely. You do different projects. So, for instance, I could be doing the comics, I could be doing the fashion. I'm also writing a book called Widowhood, and it's about the trials and tribulations of being a widow, but from a kind of very dry comedy angle, where it's kind of a woman who's refusing to accept help and may end up, so causing a bit of a scene at the IKEA parking lot because she's trying to get this like massive box in the back of her boot and she's just refusing to ask for help. It's kind of things like that happened to me, and I just wanted to sort of have a laugh, at myself, and kind of a unique perspective on widowhood, where it's not all sort of tears and drama, but it's also, I think, kind of a Sex and the City approach. So yeah, it's definitely having those different projects, because you never know. Sometimes you might come to a point where it's like you've had a bit of a stumbling block, and rather than just sitting there and getting all frustrated and causing yourself massive distress, just take a break from it, go do something else, and while you're doing that something else, you could get a spark of inspiration and go back to the other project. So that's kind of something somebody told me to do that because I was stuck. They're like, listen, take a break to go do your other project, and then you can come back to it. And that's what I do. And it's good because you've always got that fresh perspective. I mean, that's why in some ways it did take a little bit longer than it should have, because I was always leaving it sort of on a back burner, and then going back to the project with fresh eyes and seeing things like, oh, actually, that could be improved in that way. And I mean, today I did the lettering probably about months ago. I did the lettering, and then I got told, sort of it looks very amateurish. And today I was going through sort of all the lettering rules, and I thought, oh my God, I could see everything that was wrong with my work. And now it's like, because I'm approaching it with fresh eyes, I now can do it a little bit more professionally. So yeah, highly recommend multi-projects. And I just noticed Rob was like, why not all? Yeah, I mean, Why not all? I'm happy with all. I'll even be happy working on the costumes if there's a film or a TV series, But I'm just saying,
If you have the passion for it, you're going to get it done no matter what.
Yeah.
And actually, I wanted to, Rob, he's been in here in the background. He's kind of like my backup plan, because I was hearing some thunderstorms and I was worried that I was going to lose power again, because it's Florida. And, he has his own Kickstarter that's happening right now. And it's just, it's his earlier work. But he was just like, I'm going to put this out. I'm going to create this no matter what. And I think that, again, that speaks to, he says, blah. I wrote that about you, but I wanted to send out some love, because it is, it's one of those things, again, when you have that creative spirit, that indie passion to get your work out there no matter what. And you're doing it because, I mean, I personally, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but when I write, I do it because I have to. I've always said that I have ink in my blood, so it's more for writing. I'm not an artist, but I love to doodle. But when it comes to writing stories and things, and for NS, when you're doing your creative endeavors, whether it's fashion, and you take those elements of drawing in order to create those patterns and things, and trying to take that image that's in your head, translate it down your arm into paper, and then create something. It's just a wonderful thing. And I truly believe that everybody has the capacity to do that. Whether they do it well or not is really up to them. The ones who are really hungry are going to go out there and learn. And I think I see that with you, creating this comic book, is that you are learning just like with the script writing, just like with your fashion, you don't come out of the gate knowing everything. You have to be kind of humble and just say, hey, I'm learning. There's always something new to learn. There's also, for me personally, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I never want to be the smartest person in the room, and that's just my attitude. So before we leave, though, I want you to let everybody know where we can follow you. And then we're going to cut this because I know it's getting kind of late there. And I don't know whether you had dinner or not. You're a late eater like I am.
No, I'm all sorted now. I was just going to say, in reference to what you were saying about being a writer and having ink in your blood, I remember going to a talk at the London Screenwriters Festival, and it was Charlie Brooker, and he's responsible for doing a lot of sort of episodes of Black Mirror. And he said that somebody asked him, "Do you enjoy writing?" And he just sat there with kind of he had to think about it, and he's like, "Writing to me is like being constipated." He said, "I get relief when it comes out and it's done." So I was like, oh yeah, that's like me. That's like me. It's like when it's all on paper, I feel relief. It's all out.
And I've woken up in the middle of the night because this voice kept on repeat. It's like, all right, shut up, and it's that relief of just getting it down. And then before you know it, hours have passed by and you have this stuff, and then you have to translate it the next day.
Oh, I know. You have to have a notebook beside you so that way you can scribble down. And then when you wake up, you're like, what? Because if you try to write down what you were thinking but hours ago, you can't, it's like you've lost the moment. But the trials and tribulations of being a writer.
Well, I'm going to put you up on the big screen. I want you to let people know where to follow you. We're going to send out your IndieGoGo campaign link again. Everybody, make sure that you support that and send some love. Make sure that you send the screenshot of your physical backing of the campaign to Matthew@geekinsider.com, because we are going to do a live drawing for a really cool Mobile Edge backpack. And on that note, let's put you up on the big screen, Ines.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'm Eskander, the writer and creative director of EYVA, the comic. You can find me on IndieGoGo as EYVA Comic, or Instagram or Facebook, same name, EYVA Comic. We'd love to sort of have you on there as a contributor and help us get it funded to get published and even start issue 2. Yay!
All right. Well, that was short and sweet. And we're just going to put this up here.
Have you not heard me talk enough?
We could talk for hours. The only thing that's missing right now is wine or whiskey or beer.
Yeah,
So let me just drop in your link for the IndieGoGo here in the comments real quickly so that the audience can get in touch with you. I think you've got some friend requests that are going to be coming your way.
Definitely.
I just want to pop this up.
I like Sarah.
Yeah, she's
like a really cool chick.
She really is. She really is. I'm going to pop this up here again. WildOne Forever, Empowering Attitude and Lifestyle for Women. We have this wonderful, beautiful Nord Green watch that is up for grabs. We are picking one winner in a live random drawing on September 4th. So make sure that you join the newsletter or our mailing list. We don't have a newsletter out quite yet. We're still getting our stuff together, but you have a chance to win this watch. All you have to do is sign up for the newsletter. And if you want to be a guest on WildOne Forever, we talk about real stuff, but we also have some fun too. So if you want to be a guest, contact me at Meredith@wildoneforever.com. And let's see, in the mornings, starting this Monday, the Morning Nosh returns at 9 a.m. I have taken a couple of weeks off in order to, 1, recover from IndieVent, and 2, to kind of reformat, because I believe I will probably go live, God help me, because I am not a morning person. And on that note, we're going to put up the final card here. Ennis, let's say our goodbyes in Valley Girl, okay?
All right, okay.
So it was like so much fun, and I want to thank you for being part of WildOne forever.
You do it too well.
I know, it's really scary, right? Oh my god!
So good. How did you do that? You're channeling like Elle. It's like, oops, shall I leave him a note?
Oh my gosh, we need to cut this out right now. Bye, guys. Like,
Bye.
oh my gosh, I hope you had so much fun. Like,
I did. Thank you.